masters of the universe, the Legends of Grayskull podcast.
Legends of Grayskull is a fan podcast exploring the vast worlds of He-Man and She-Ra. Join Sean Scavarna and Matthew Duke as they discuss the history and mystery of Eternia and Etheria, diving deep into all incarnations of Masters of the Universe.
Hey, you know who's back? It's the Legends of Grayskull podcast. Now that you know, let's go. Get ready for the show. It's the Legends of Grayskull podcast. Sit back and enjoy the ride. Right now.
Hello, everybody, and welcome back to L.O.G on MYP. I am Matthew Duch, here again with Curtis Ackerman, as we traverse through the Mike Young Productions 2002 He-Man and the Masters of the Universe cartoon series, episode by episode. We're going to break it back down for you. We're going to give you our thoughts, our likes, our dislikes, and at the end, our Power Sword rankings. So, Curtis, we are about to jump into episode 15.
I'm glad you remembered. I'm glad you remembered. Like weeks ago when we did that mid-season review.
Yes.
You said, hey, let's wear the exact same thing when we do episode 15 because we knew that 15 was a really good episode. And so we wanted to wear like the same clothes and everything. I got my Skeletor, you got your blue shirt.
Right. Yeah, it's funny. It's actually until you mentioned that in the pre-show, I didn't even realize that we had just lucked out and worn the same clothes. So
we had talked about it. I'm just glad we did it. That's cool. Little callback to that episode.
Callback. Oh, God, wasn't that great? And having Sean on top of it, like
excellent.
I mean, I'm so glad that he was
from Sean. Yeah,
I'm glad he was able to open up his schedule a couple weeks back and join us for that because that was real special. So
absolutely.
All right, guys, today is episode 15, The Monster Within. This was written by Larry DiTillio, directed by Gary Hartel, story edited by Dean Stefan. It originally aired in the U.S. on December 27th of 2002. And the Cartoon Network episode description was, He-Man in many faces battled dangerous bounty hunters in the tar swamp. So, like right off the bat here, again, I talked about many previous episodes, how these episode descriptions really got your mind going. Obviously, this one was, who are these bounty hunters?
Mm-hmm.
Are these going to be new characters? Are these going to be someone that we knew? And I'll speak for myself, but I really don't think anybody called it that we were going to see the first appearances of Tuvar, Badra, and Too Bad in this episode. And honestly, even sitting down to watch it this morning, I always like to watch it as close as possible to us recording, I'd kind of forgotten that this was the episode. I remember the stuff about Manny and Beastman, but it wasn't until I started going, I'm like, oh, shoot, we get to see Too Bad in this too.
Yeah. Give me 1 minute. I got to take care of something real quick.
All right, we are back.
Yeah, I knew going into this one that this was the Tuvar and Badra episode because it's one of my favorites. I'll just kind of get that out of the way and we'll talk about it as we go. But any of these episodes where they added extra backstory to a character that we didn't have before, I really loved.
Sure.
We've kind of talked in the past about the little comic series, the Icons of Evil or, whatever. And just the great job that they did on those, like with the origins. And I know we've got, spoiler alert, we got another one coming up later where they do a Stinkor episode, another one that I really love. So, just giving some extra background to these characters, I think is awesome. So yeah, I was definitely looking forward to this. What I had forgotten about was the Manny Faces part. Like I forgot, like to me, that was like a side note to what this story is, even though clearly that's what the name of the episode is about him and everything. But I had forgotten even that part of it. So
If you can remember back, though, when you first watched this episode, I mean, obviously you would have had no inkling that Too Bad was coming up. Had you, because I know you got into it later, did you already know that in this series they created them originally as two separate characters, or was that
No.
a surprise first time you
This
watched?
is a total surprise, and I'll be honest, before this episode, I never cared about Too Bad as a character. I always thought it was a really stupid toy. Like, just you had very limited movement on what he could do. You know, you just had the arms that do this thing, and that there wasn't a whole lot of stuff that you could do with it. I just thought it was really stupid looking toy. This episode made me change my whole perspective on that character to where it became one of my favorite characters. Nice. And I know for a while, you know, people were hinting at a possible like Tuvar Badra 2-pack that you could then make into Too Bad in Classics. And unfortunately, we never got it in Classics. Now, they just recently did that in Origins, which is weird because they did it for the Filmation part, which this never happened in Filmation. But you know, at least they kind of did something with that. But yeah, this episode made me love that character. So
yeah, it was definitely a surprise to me, and I loved the character as a kid. That was actually one of my favorite action figures. I love doing like the bear hug and the punch him out and everything. And I just thought he was really cool, and I had never thought of him potentially being two separate characters. Like I'd always thought of him just being Too Bad. You know, we've got Whiplash, we've got Clawful, we've got a guy that has two heads. Like that's just.
See, I always saw it as I don't know if you remember Sesame Street, where they had that monster with the two heads,
right?
They're like goofy one. That's how I saw Too Bad, like just this goofy monster with two heads, and they're arguing with each other and this and that. But you're right, I never thought, oh well, these were at one point their own individual people that were put together.
Right.
That never even occurred to me that could be a possibility.
Yeah, and that opens up a whole nother layer to him that we'll get into later in the season. But so for now, we're jumping into the Monster Within. We open up with the Evil Warriors fighting the Masters on Orcus Island. The Evil Warriors are trying to retrieve the Emerald of Orcus Island, and the Masters are trying to stop them from doing it. Oh, stop it, cat. Sorry, I'm being attacked under my desk. We got during the battle, Beastman confronts Manny Faces in his monster mode and realizes that he has the power to control him.
And just to set the stage, sorry, real quick, the people that we see in this fight that's going on, we've got Buzz-Off, Man-at-Arms, and Manny Faces is who we see on the good guy side to start off. And then for the Evil Warriors, we got Beastman, Merman, Triclops, Evelyn, and Trapjaw. So the good guys are outnumbered even to start with. There's no He-Man at the beginning of this. And then, the Manny Faces turns into the Beast portion of Manny Faces, and Beastman has this great idea.
Yep. And so once Man-Arms realizes that something's wrong with Manny Faces, that leads him and Buzz-Off to leave their cover to try and help him, result in the Evil Warriors knocking them both out. And we actually see Man-at-Arms take a direct blast from Triclops in this episode. So that was fun. That jerk deserves it. So, luckily for them, He-Man does show up at that moment, or else all would be lost. He is able to turn the tide and force the Evil Warriors to retreat. Man-at-Arms worries about them getting away with the Emerald, but He-Man reveals that he had it all along.
Yep.
So, really weird.
And it's weird because the Emerald is pink when Emerald should be green. So I don't know if that's just a color error as they were putting together the episode. But
jumping ahead just real quick here to the trivia section of Yuka's amazing book that we use, his unofficial guide. The Emerald is described in the script as a glowing green glass-like emerald, and in the episode they colored it purple for some reason. So
interesting.
Animation.
Yeah, and it should be noted, like we've talked before about kind of how does Beastman control the beast? Like what is the thing? Is it mind control thing? Is it, a training thing? Like, what is it? So we get a little bit more insight to that here on how he's trying to control Manny Faces, and the way that Manny Faces breaks out of it. Like, he's trying to punch He-Man because he's under Beastman's control, and He-Man moves and he accidentally punches Beastman. And when he punches Beastman, somehow that connection is lost, and he's able to kind of come to enough to switch back to human form.
Yeah. So this episode, in my opinion, contrary to the previous ones, really depicts it as the Aquaman style power, the telepathic, eye control, whatever, mind control. Which I'm not sure I'm a huge fan of, honestly. I think I like it better where he's just got more of that influence and everything else. So,
and I don't know. I mean, we'll as we get later in the episode, we can kind of talk about what control he has over Manny Faces. But it doesn't. It feels like he has influence, but not total control. Like what was it? The dragon episode that he was saying, like, he's had trouble like controlling a full blown dragon. So he thought, maybe. So I don't know that I don't know. It's like he has influence on them. He does have a way to kind of make them do things they don't necessarily want to do, but it's not 100%. It's not like a guaranteed this is going to work.
It's still not that Filmation level. I'll give you that. Like, it's not just that snap and they jump.
Right.
But it is more of that closer to that in this episode than it has been in previous episodes, especially considering that Manny has the human brain behind all of that,
Yeah.
And I think
and there's something with his whip too, because like when he's barking out orders at Manny Faces, he's like hitting his whip, and I don't know if it's like some sort of like hypnotic device that like when they hear the whip, they've got to obey or something. I don't know. It would be interesting to hear, like, whoever kind of worked on this series and wrote on it, if there was some more detail on like how his powers actually work.
Yeah, I agree. And yeah, it definitely seems like he's doing the lion tamer, or like, dogs trainers will have like the click or the whistles. Like there is definitely something there.
Yeah, the thing with those things though is like those trainers have worked with those animals for long periods of time, to where those animals have built up to where they know when they hear this or when they see this, it means I need to do this particular thing. But this is an immediate thing. Like, this is immediately, he just took control of Manny Faces, and when he cracks the whip, Manny Faces knows exactly what Beastman wants him to do and listens. So I don't know. It's just interesting to see how it works. I really like the way they've done Beastman in this series. It's a lot of fun. So
yeah, I just last comment on the scene. It's feels to me like like the scene was shortened for time or something, because there is an awkward exchange at the end there where like He-Man just kind of, there's no Manor's like, oh, they got away with the emerald, and He-Man just like holds it up, and then we cut to the next scene, and it's like, wait, but did he get it from them? Because Man-at-Arms seems to think that they had it.
I don't know if it was sleight of hand or what, because at one point He-Man like catapults into them. Like he does this thing where he like throws like a rock, and it's like he's on a seesaw basically, and he throws it on the other side, and then it launches them towards them. So when he hit them, did he somehow get it back, or we don't know?
I even rewound the scene because I'm like, I didn't think He-Man even got close enough to them, but yeah, he does touch them when he like knocks them down after he somersaults. So I guess he swiped it. Then he's been hanging out with Orko. He's learned a little sleight of hand, nothing up my sleeve. So
yeah,
he doesn't even wear sleeves. That's how good the trick is.
It was a fun interaction. So
it was just kind of, it was obviously like, okay, here's our intro to the episode. This is not gonna, like, the emerald is not gonna be a point of the episode. It's more like the Diamond Ray of Disappearance.
Yeah.
R.I.P. Back at Snake Mountain, Skeletor decides that his evil warriors are not cutting it, and he wants to hire some bounty hunters to try and take down He-Man since his
Mhm.
warriors aren't cutting it. Whiplash volunteers that he knows 2 great bounty hunters, and any one of them could take down He-Man.
And this is 2 episodes in a row where Whiplash has kind of come up with a good idea. Like, he's being a productive member of the team.
And he's confident, and
Mhm.
I'm really liking Whiplash more and more.
Yeah. And he basically tells Skeletor, "Hey, which one do you want?" And Skeletor says both.
Both.
And yeah,
If
why not?
one of them can take down He-Man, 2 of them
Right.
will be awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah, and he orders Whiplash to bring them to Snake Mountain.
And he shoos all the evil warriors away from him because he's sick of seeing them and all this and that.
Yep.
And Whiplash kind of lingers, and then all of a sudden you just see Skeletor's eyes kind of light up, and he gets scared and run off. And this happens a couple times during this episode, so I don't know. I'm not sure what's going on, but like where everybody else was scared and already left, Whiplash was kind of like, I'm going to hang around here a little bit until he saw that, and he's like, nope, I'm out.
And it's like Skeletor praised him. He had a good plan. Whiplash is saying, all right, like I'm Beastman Evil Lyn, look out, I'm coming up the company ladder. So Skeletor's got to remind him, like, nah, dude, you're still there.
Yeah.
Like, no.
You're still one of them. Get out of here.
So then we have Whiplash leading our bounty hunters Tuvar and Badra into the throne room to meet Skeletor. And immediately at this point, it's like, wait a minute here, because these are, while we've never seen Too Bad split apart, they're instantly recognizable as the two halves.
So what do you think about the individual designs of Tuvar and Badra?
I love them. I think they're really good. I mean, they maintain those elements of him, and I like what they did, skipping ahead a little bit to Too Bad, because at this point we'd seen the Too Bad action figure, so like we knew what Too Bad was gonna be. Still not knowing that he was gonna be 2 separate characters initially, but I like that they gave him the 2 sides some distinct personality in this series, where like Tuvar is a little taller than Badra, and but Badra is a bit bulkier because he's the for those of you who can't remember, so Tuvar is the blue side and the more alien looking one, and then Badra is the purple monster side of Too Bad. Which I like when Whiplash is introducing them, and he's like Tuvar and Badra, and he like points to the 2 sides, so it's like his so we're all clear here, which one's which. But no, I love them. I think they did a good job of taking that half and putting it out to a full character, but you can see how the designs are going to mash up to make Too Bad.
Yeah, I mean, just looking at them right off the bat as they come in, we'll talk more about kind of how their personalities are different and stuff, but just the look of them I think is awesome, man. Yeah. I love the look of both of them. You've got this one that's kind of more what I would expect, and Tuvar's more of kind of the bounty hunter that I would expect. Like he's got and many times throughout this he's got like his face covered and just kind of tall and just I don't know.
Yeah, and we'll see. He uses the gadgets and the traps.
Yeah, he's and then Badra is just like this bulky, like he hits the gym nonstop, a little bit shorter, just like maybe not quite as smart. He's kind of has some like broken English and stuff, and but yeah, they're totally different, and I think that the individual designs are cool as heck, and I always wanted to get a more adult version of those figures, whether it's classics or Masterverse or whatever, the individual Tuvar and the individual Badra, because just individually they look super awesome, and yeah,
and in a line that's going to take more advantage of those physical differences, because like you said, it came out in Origins, but those all basically use the same buck, so it doesn't really play up on the individualness. Plus, they modeled them after the Filmation Too Bad instead of this one. So, Mondo, looking at you guys, your 1/12 Masters of the Universe line coming up. No brainer, but
that I mean, out of out of everything that we could get from Mondo in a 2000X line, like that's probably the thing I'm most looking forward to is if they did a Tuvar and Badra. Like we've already talked over the past few episodes about and we really hit it during the review episode about these redesigns and just how so many of them are just really cool. But this is the one to me that's the most standout of all the redesigns. So,
and I will say too, real quick, just for Mondo, looking at it, like I can see even people who might pass on a 2000 even He-Man or Skeletor that would still grab Tuvar and Badra to go like in their classic lines, just because we
never
haven't gotten a collector grade Tuvar and Badra. So.
Right, absolutely.
But back to the episode, and I like how when they're coming in, like again, you just get a few lines of dialogue between them when they realize that Whiplash invited both of them, and a little bit of quibbling. You brought him, blah blah, like, and you get the feeling that that these guys have a history already. We don't need to dive into each other.
There's they don't hide the fact that they do not like each other,
right? So there's some beef, some big history here, stolen bounty involved probably.
That's kind of what I got was like, I don't know how much of a need there is in Eternia for bounty hunters, but I'm guessing that these two are fighting over bounties fairly often, because I can't imagine that there's too many people looking for bounty hunters to where they're both busy. So yeah, they're fighting over who's going to get it, who's going to catch the bounty, and you can see there's just like that rivalry, that competitiveness.
Absolutely,
yeah, it's fun.
So Whiplash introduces them to Skeletor. Skeletor wants to test them out, so he sends all of his evil warriors at the two of them, and they are able to take down everybody that's sent their way. So,
yeah, they send Trapjaw and Beastman first, and Tuvar and Badra dispatch of them fairly easily. And then Evelyn and Triclops kind of look over to Skeletor, and he kind of nods that they can go and have their go, and they're excited to fight him. And then we don't get to see Evelyn and Triclops really fight him so much, but then all of a sudden, all the bodies are just laying on the ground, and Tuvar and Badra are still, upright. So.
Yep. And so then the bounty hunters want to know which one of them is getting the job. And Skeletor says it needs to be both of you. You need to go work together to take down He-Man. Your reward will be great when you bring me He-Man, but there will be an equally great punishment if they fail, which of course they are not happy about being forced to work together.
And it doesn't feel like they're going to work together either. I mean, it feels right from the bat like they know they're both being sent on the same mission. Yeah. But I'm thinking that both of them think I'm going to be the one to bring them back, and I'm going to get the reward, not we're going to get the reward. There's no indication that they're like, okay, yeah, we'll work together. No, that's not going to happen.
And I gotta imagine that Skeletor set up this test, because if you notice, none of the evil warriors used their powers. It was all hand-to-hand combat.
Well, and I think that's why they skipped, like when like Evelyn and Triclops are going to fight them, they don't really show the fight between Evelyn and them, because it's like we've seen Evelyn do some crazy stuff.
Right.
That would be hard to explain how she got beat. And so they just kind of forward, like they're going to attack them. Next thing you know, they're lying on the ground. So you've got to kind of use your imagination on like how that fight went a little bit. But
and that's my fan theory, is that Skeletor told them, because he's testing them to fight He-Man, he's not testing them to fight Evil Lyn. So I think Skeletor told him like attack, but no magic,
maybe. I don't know. The
and it makes sense
that we see, you can tell the evil warriors are not happy. Like Beastman attacks Whiplash because Whiplash is all proud of his great idea and everything. And then, the evil warriors are not happy about this. And they basically say, hey, we're going to let these guys take out He-Man, but then we're going to take credit for it.
Exactly. So. And I like the Evil Warriors banding together. Like, hey, we got to take care of ourselves here. And so this means that we get to get the looky-loo Evil Warriors again. So that's always fun. We should have been keeping track of this. How many episodes do the Evil Warriors just peep from the bushes?
Yeah.
Like, it's at least a handful of times by now.
Well, and I think it's fun because there's a lot of times that, like, one of my fondest memories of He-Man as a kid was the Golden Books. And there's a lot of time in those Golden Books where you do see the Evil Warriors just kind of like peering through a bush or, around a tree or whatever. Right. And so it's a nice little kind of callback that, these guys, they don't always get involved. Like sometimes they're just kind of watching and seeing what's going on and seeing if they can take advantage of something after the fact.
Yep.
So,
their loyalty is to themselves first.
Correct.
Back at the Royal Palace, we meet up with the Masters, and Manny Faces is still shaken from being mentally controlled by Beastman, and he vows to never again become Manny Monster.
Yeah, he says that the monster is just a role, and he's never to play it again.
Yep. And then Adam disappears when they're told that they have a mission to take the Emerald of Orcus Island to the Sands of Fire to be destroyed. Buzz-Off makes a comment to Manny, which he takes the wrong way and gets offended. And Buzz-Off was being a bit of a jerk there, but I did like that. Buzz-Off did try to apologize.
Yeah, he noticed.
He's like, "Oh man, I was just joking,"
right.
Which I remembered the character Buzz-Off, especially from a later episode, like overall, and I'm like, "Oh, that's kind of nice that they gave him that touch here, where he's like, he said the jerk comment, but he realized he was being a jerk, and he's like, "Oh man, no, like, I thought you were like, I thought you were in a good place with it." And that's when He-Man pops up to let him know that they have their own mission.
It's something that we've talked about at length about this series and how they portray people. Especially we've talked about Teela and Prince Adam, how they're flawed characters. They're not like these. Not everything's black and white. Like these people are all bad and these people are all good. Like people have faults, and so in this instance, you see, Buzz-Off hurts Manny Face's feelings, but then he recognizes it and tries to apologize for it. So, I like the fact that they throw in some of those real life nuances to how these people interact with one another.
Absolutely agree. He-Man and Manny Faces are heading to the tar swamp because there's been reports of a wild animal there that is attacking people and becoming a nuisance. So Eternia apparently has no animal control department, so it's up to the Masters.
There you go.
But I like the idea that I think it's also showing Adam growing as a person, as a leader, realizing that Manny's, still got some stuff going on. And it's like, hey, come on, let's go have some time
and together. Yeah, it should be easy. It's just going to the jungle.
Easy little thing. Get back on that bicycle. Like
they don't expect to run across like bounty hunters and evil warriors and stuff. Like that's not supposed to happen. So
exactly. At the tar swamp, they find no evidence of a monster, but end up splitting up to look. We see Tuvar using some cool predator technology to track He-Man.
Yeah, being invisible, and he's got like this like cloth that he pulls over his face and stuff, and
the infrared visor.
Dude, Tuvar, I love Tuvar in this. Like out of the two, he's the badass to me. Like Badra is strong but dumb. Tuvar is the one that I don't think I would want to mess with because he feels like he's strategic, but he also can kick your ass, and he's got the tech. Like, he's multi-faceted. So
so this is where we see like Tuvar has all this technology. He's tracking. He's getting a read first. Like Tuvar's the one who spends months tracking the bounty, setting up like a secret identity, like infiltrating and slowly. And Badra's the one who's like, dude's in there and he bashes down the door and drags the dude out by his hair, killing bystanders at the same time. Like that's and yeah, Manny Faces runs into Badra, who ends up beating him quite easily because he will not turn into the monster, which is what gives him his strength. He's using the robot mode to track. Luckily, He-Man intervenes and saves him there.
And they aren't able to see these guys. Is that now, or is that that I think that's now, where He-Man basically tells him, like, hey, if you were the monster, like, you'd be able to sense where these guys are and stuff. And he won't turn back.
Yeah, so the robot can't pick up their tracks, so he wants to turn into the monster.
Scent. Yeah,
the monster to track the scent. Yeah,
right.
And he's like, no, I can't do it.
Even though there's no Beastman around, but I think it just the whole experience of being not in control of yourself has scared him to the point where he doesn't want to do it, even though there's not the threat of Beastman as far as he knows.
Well, see, that's what I'm saying. So for and that's where this Beastman having the power at this level, where at the end of the day, it's still Manny in there. And so Manny's reliving that helplessness of not even being able to control himself. It's a rabbit hole.
We're able to kind of see this, like how the effect that this has on Manny Faces, that he was doing things that were out of his control, made to fight his friends.
Yep.
And it makes me think, like, how did the Shadow Beast deal with that? Like, how did the dragons, like when Beastman stops controlling one of them, like, obviously they're not able to talk about their feelings,
right?
Because they're animals and stuff. But do they feel that way? Do they feel like a resentment towards Beastman? Is that why, we saw in Snake Mountain, when he's they're all in cages and stuff, like they're attacking, like in the cages, like these beasts are not happy. So is that why? Because they also don't like to be controlled by Beastman?
I think it kind of goes back to, and I think it was Night of the Shadow Beast when we were talking about that, how I was speculating, like, if the beast is more inherently evil, then there would probably be less of that, where Beastman is more just like Shadow Beasts want to attack, like, anyways. They've got that bloodlust, so Beastman just kind of like targeting
redirects it,
where so it's not as much control, in my opinion. It's more just like, hey, you want to kill somebody, get that blonde dude over there, you know. But for Manny, definitely, like, number one, having the mind of a person and being a heroic master in this continuity, that's it's messing with him. It absolutely is. It's taking him off his game.
And as this is happening, we see a Doomseeker kind of floating around, spying on them, and the evil warriors are just watching, seeing what's going on, waiting for their opportunity.
So here they split up again to
one more thing. Sorry.
You're good.
After the Doomseeker sees them, Beastman specifically makes a mention that his pet is here, and he's talking about Manny Faces.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
There's some real world issues I don't really want to get into on this episode or on Legends of Grayskull, but like there's some shades here that are pretty freaky when you think about it. So so Manny Faces, he gets caught in a trap that was set by the bounty hunters, and he falls into a river and is attacked by a swamp hopper. He-Man also winds up in a trap, ending up entangled by vines and immobilized. Badra is gloating over his victory, but Tuvar arrives and stops him, wanting to claim the bounty for his own, and the pair begin to fight.
It should be noted that when Manny Faces got attacked, he basically got Ewok'd. Like they did the log is flying through the forest and kind of hits him, like they do in Return of the Jedi. So,
and it was I'd forgotten how the sequence actually went, because they he steps on like a landmine looking device and it starts flashing, and I'm like, are they gonna blow him up? Like, is it like, and then it turns out that they show it connects to another sensor that drops a log on him.
And it's got like
down.
ropes on either side, and it just swings and just, ooh, you know.
Ewok, Kevin McAllister, paint cans.
Yes, however you want to call it. Yeah.
But yeah, for a second there, I'm like, oh man, I'd forgotten they blow. Oh no, it triggers.
Yeah.
That's more He-Man. Never mind.
Yep. And he gets knocked in this river, and he basically starts getting entangled with some sort of creature.
The swamp hopper, the frogs. There was the same.
Oh, is that what? Okay, I didn't know.
Same creatures that we saw in the flashback in Lessons when Orko saves Adam from them in the tar swamp when he first arrives on Eternia.
And Manny Phase is kind of getting beat in that situation because human Manny can't beat it. Robot Manny can't do anything. So he knows he needs to turn into monster, but he's still fighting it internally.
Yep. So. And we leave him with just him being sucked under the water, or into the tar. So, and then we get the Tuvar and Badra fight as they're fighting over who's going to get to claim the bounty on He-Man. The only reason Tuvar and Badra fail here is because they refuse to work together. Like, Correct. They had He-Man, Manny was immobilized. They should have been halfway back to Snake Mountain at this point to collect their bounty, but their pride will just not let them.
I think even either one of them individually could have captured He-Man. Yeah. It's because of their infighting that they weren't able to. So, part of this is on Skeletor for, sending two guys that clearly hate each other after the same goal, because what he could have done is sent one to distract the rest of the masters or do some other. I mean, Skeletor's always got a million schemes going on, right? Yes. He could have sent one to go do one thing and one to do this other. And we've seen twice throughout this, once where Tuvar captured He-Man and once where Badra captured him in the vines, that if they were by themselves, I think they would have probably, at least from what we can see, it looks like they would have captured He-Man. Yes. Now, whether they would have been able to get him back without He-Man escaping or whatever is a whole different subject. But just them going together, it makes me question Skeletor's motives or his, intelligence, I guess, on his plan making.
It's kind of funny too, because you have to wonder the punishment that Skeletor comes up with for them. Did he have that in mind from the get-go, or is that something he came up with on the spot? So is Skeletor looking at this like a win-win? Either they capture He-Man and bring him back, or I'm going to do this thing and add these guys to my ranks. Like,
yeah, and I mean, we're getting a little ahead of ourselves here, but either way, I kind of question it. Like, you as a person, Matt, have your own individual strengths and opportunities. I got my own individual strengths and opportunities. Us working together, if we wanted to, maybe we could accomplish something better than we could individually. But putting half of me and half of you together is just a recipe for chaos. Like, that's, we're not going to agree on every which way to go. And so you end up, I don't know, you lessen the effectiveness of either one of us. So yeah, I just, we talked earlier in the series about how Skeletor seems to have these really good plans. He knows he can't just beat He-Man one-on-one, muscle to muscle, fist to fist. So he has to be smarter. He has to be smarter than the masters. And we're starting to see over the last few episodes, and then this one, that I don't know. I don't think his plans are really working out that well.
Is this a descent into madness for Skeletor? Is he? I mean, you also got to think, like, so he had. I think we landed on 20 years to behind the Mystic Wall to kind of come up with his revenge and everything else. So maybe now we're seeing so 20 years of playing Skeletor is now running out of ideas. And maybe now he's having to kind of create on the fly.
And it's like all of a sudden now there's this mysterious hero that he never figured into his plans that is thwarting his every move. Right. So yeah, I could see that where he's probably just, you know, I mean, we saw a little bit in the last episode where he's like, man, we've tried by land, by sea, by air. We're like everything we try, like he's stopping us. And now he is basically given up hope in the people that work for him, and he's going out to hire bounty hunters,
Right.
because he's just at a loss. So yeah, I mean, you may be right. Maybe he's just kind of, you know, going crazy a little bit. So.
I think so. But yeah, so while Tuvar and Badra are fighting each other, He-Man keeps trying to break out of the vines, but more and more vines keep coming, wrapping him up. And then we have Manny Monster burst onto the scene and confronts the Tuvar and Badra.
Well, before that, he turned into the monster, and actually, because last we heard he was pulled underwater, so he turned into the monster in order to beat the, what did you call it, frog hopper,
swamp hopper.
So he beats that thing, but then now he approaches Tuvar and Badra, and we know Beastman is now around. He's already called him his pet. And so, you know, it looks like he's under Beastman's control again.
Yeah, so Manny's able to beat Tuvar and Badra, but then the Evil Warriors show up. Beastman mind controls him again. Manny struggles to break free, but unfortunately, he proclaims that he served Beastman, and Beastman orders him to kill He-Man. Manny heads towards him, and it's the first time we see, other than his face changing when he's in monster mode, he's also able to make some claws pop out, kind of Kitty Wolverine style. And he goes in front of He-Man entangled in vines and starts cutting him to pieces, from what we can see from our viewpoint, as the Evil Warriors.
Before he does that, before he goes up to He-Man, like Beastman tells him to go kill He-Man. He-Man says, you know, fight it, Manny. Like you know, you're still in there. I know you're still in there. You need to fight this. But it looks like that's not working, because he goes up there and he's just Wolverine in a way. So,
and I just love, so like you had pointed out in an early episode where Man-at-Arms blasts the Evil Warriors into the abyss, like the Evil Warriors, from their viewpoint, like Manny is just slicing into He-Man, his friend, and the Evil Warriors are just hooting and hollering and cackling and having a grand old time at the prospect of watching a friend kill another friend. Like,
it's they got their popcorn out and they're just enjoying it. So
it is sick and twisted.
But then Manny moves, and lo and behold, no He-Man.
No He-Man. He was not under Beastman's control, and he was actually cutting the vines away, allowing He-Man to escape. It
reminds me of the old John Lovitz when he was on Saturday Night Live, and he would do like his acting thing, and he'd go, it's like the time that I lost my finger. How'd you lose your finger? Acting.
Yes.
that's what. So Manny faces, you know, he did this whole thing. The Wolverine, basically, instead of killing He-Man, he released him from his vines. And then just proclaims, you know,
Beastman,
you silly Evil Warriors. I was acting.
Acting.
I
which like that thing.
It's not only is it just a fun thing in the episode, but it's a great callback to who he is and the fact that he was an actor and all this kind of stuff. Like, it's just a fun little moment.
And and I love that they leaned into that there. I completely agree.
And as they're kind of confused with it, guess what? The Evil Warriors now get Ewoked. Now here comes a log out of nowhere where He-Man, I guess, is throwing it at them. And they all get Ewoked with the log, or Kevin McAllister, however you want to call it.
And then He-Man and Manny Faces leave them to deal with the Swamp Hoppers, as Manny thanks He-Man for reminding him that only he can choose which roles he plays. Back at Snake Mountain, the Evil Warriors tells Skeletor that Tuvar and Badra failed to defeat He-Man because they refused to cooperate with each other.
They totally blame everything on them. Nothing about how they interfered and how they tried to do this and that. And nothing. It just
in their defense. In the defense of the Evil Warriors, though, they did not step in until Manny had already defeated Tuvar and Badra. So no matter what, at that point, Manny was going to rescue He-Man. If the Evil
That's
Warriors
true.
hadn't been there, he would have just rescued him straight up without
Yeah.
the sadistic watch a friend tear a friend apart.
But they were also very ineffective against He-Man and Many Faces, but they don't bring up that part.
That's not the point.
It's all about Tuvar and Badra and how they failed.
Skeletor asked how Tuvar and Badra did. He did not ask how everybody did.
You don't volunteer information. You just give him the answer he's looking for. So.
Skeletor berates the arguing bounty hunters before using a spell to fuse them together into the two-headed Too Bad.
This is where I gotta question his intelligence. So, we've seen a couple times where he will have, one group go over here and then another group go to like Castle Grayskull, and there's times where he splits up his team. He knows that both of these bounty hunters are very effective individually. And he could definitely work out plans where one is going on one mission and one is going on another. He knows that they're a recipe for disaster together, but individually they're awesome. So what does he do? He makes sure that they're always together. Like that. It does. I appreciate it based on how they told the story of these characters and how they made them come together. But from just looking at it from Skeletor's perspective, it doesn't seem that smart.
No, I think this is definitely. I mean, nothing else. If nothing else, what we discussed, this decision to fuse them together is maniacal, psychotic Skeletor. All right, you two don't want to work together. I could have had everything if you did. You didn't, so I'm doing this.
Yeah, it's
just because I'm petty.
Yeah, cut your nose off to spite your face. It's like,
well, he doesn't have a nose, so it's easy for him. Like,
maybe that's what happened. We don't know.
Don't bring up the lack of the nose to Skeletor, okay?
But it's like he is more concerned with
punishing
his
them,
frustration, and been punishing them than he is about what the future holds.
Absolutely. So, yes. And it literally ends with Tuvar and Badra bickering as they realize they're fused together and Skeletor laughing maniacally. Like that, And
another just
go ahead.
Quick little thing, because like we talked on the one episode where Evelyn is able to mind control Ram Man, right? And we're like, has she just had this power the whole time? Like, so has Skeletor just had the power to fuse people together this whole time? And why has he not used this against the Masters? Like,
fuse. Well, the Masters have good teamwork, so that would probably backfire on him.
Maybe, but I mean, it still would be awkward. Like if you've ever been in a 3-legged race, that is not easy to do because you're of two minds and you're trying to coordinate together. Like it would still, I would think, cause some sort of problem. Like if he could just fuse people together, why have we never seen this?
I've got to believe that this is and they probably could have set it up better, but I feel like this is like a one-shot spell he's got, and he was like waiting to use it at the right time. He's like, all right, you two can't work together.
Yeah.
Boom. All right. That was worth it.
It would have, we've talked about on other episodes too, like if you had tied it into something that happened on this episode that made it unique to where it's like, okay, we couldn't do it before, we're not going to be able to do it again, but in this one instance we could. So like, for instance, if they were able to get the emerald, which is pink for some reason, or purple, if they were able to get that, and that allowed Skeletor to one time be able to do this, and that's how he chose to use it because he was mad. Yeah. To me, that's cool. But to do it and never have done it before and never do it again in the future seems a little odd. So, and
that actually would have erased one of my concerns from the beginning with He-Man magically holding up the emerald instead of having it leave at Man-at-Arms going, oh, they got the emerald. And then we just don't see it until the end of the episode when Skeletor uses it and it crumbles to dust. Like, that would have cleared up both these problems. I do have to appreciate, though, on that point where earlier when Beastman first tries the mind control on Manny Faces, he does make the comment of, why didn't I try this years ago? So he, at least there, he did go like, dude, I should have tried this. Like he acknowledges the fact that we've gone this long without him thinking to do this. Last thing I want to say, I did forget about the beginning, but I liked when on Orcus Island, when we first see He-Man, there's kind of a new rendition of the theme music where it's got like a bit more of like an electric guitar riff on it. I just thought
catch that.
I just thought that was really cool when he first appears in silhouette there above them to save them. Like, it hit a little bit harder in this episode.
Interesting. Okay.
So
ready for the moral?
Oh yeah, sorry. Moral first. Yes.
So moral says, basically it's Manny Faces talking. He's talking about how we all get angry. It's part of being human, which that part doesn't seem to me like that relates too much to the episode, because it wasn't like he just got angry and did something out of anger. He was being controlled. But the second part I think does relate to the episode, which is we alone are responsible for our actions, because it would totally have been, I don't know, excusable or something for him to go, oh, well, I was being controlled by Beastman. I couldn't do anything about it. But he fought it, and he was able to not let somebody else control his actions. And so I think it's a good lesson there that, don't make excuses. Don't let other people decide how you're going to live your life, how you're going to do things. Be responsible for yourself and your actions. So I like that one.
Yeah, and I like that it played like Buzz Off beats him at a game and he starts to get angry, but then he chooses to just ask for a rematch with Buzz Off. Like, and I'm with you. I'm like, effort, because he's like angry, jealous, and I'm like, well, that's not really, but they did pivot it. So it's still a little awkward, but ultimately I agree. Like,
they finished strong on the moral.
It fits the themes of the episode, even if it's not like a perfect fit.
Yeah.
So going again to our unofficial guide by Yuka, curious translations of the episode title. In Germany, this was Not Bosser el Skeletor, and that translates to more evil than Skeletor. So
okay.
And then in Italy, it was Alleanza Monstruosa, which is Monstrous Alliance.
Okay.
I like Monstrous Alliance a bit more. I'm not really, I guess because they have the potential to take down He-Man, which Skeletor hasn't been able to do, maybe. But yeah, it wasn't.
I think it's interesting that both of those are related to the evil side of this episode, not necessarily the Manny Faces part, whereas the title that we get, is definitely related to Manny Faces.
Absolutely. Yep.
So,
and from the trivia section, so this is interesting here, because so I was debating whether to hold it for next time, but I'm going to go ahead and do it here. So if you remember at the beginning of this episode, I said that the U.S. air date for this was December 27th of 2002. Flipping ahead to Mystery of Anwat Gar, that actually has an original U.S. air date of December 20th of 2002. Now, we mentioned last time that on Amazon Prime, it's got Underworld, Mystery of Anwat Gar, and then Monster Within. But in reality, they're flip-flopped. So Monster Within is episode number 15. So this is its right spot in the order. For airing on Cartoon Network, it was switched with The Mystery of Anwat Gar, episode 16. This was most likely done for toy promotional reasons, as, spoiler alerts, we will see the Samurai Deluxe figures in Mystery of Anwat Gar, which were available for the 2002 Christmas shopping season. So they flip-flopped them so that Anwat Gar would come out. Granted, it's still only 20th. It's only 5 days before Christmas.
Right.
But still technically before Christmas. And so those two got flip-flopped in the airing order.
It'll be interesting as we go into the next one to see if there's, because, we talk about each of these is kind of its own individual episode, but there's also these themes that carry on and building of personalities and whatnot. So it'll be interesting as we watch the next one to kind of talk about, okay, if we had watched this one first, would it have made some sort of weird difference, with
Yes.
watching this one second? So,
Yep. So I assume on this one, that's the reason why Amazon Prime is messed up like that, because
yeah,
it did. And it does say in Europe, who got the episodes later than us, they aired in the proper order.
gotcha.
And then for Manny Face's different faces, in the script, they were referred to as human face, monster face, and robot face. But on all of the artwork, model sheets, and storyboards, they were referred to as creature face and mechanical face for his alternate ones. So
Okay.
it's a little interesting bit of trivia.
Very
All
nice.
right. So that brings us now to our Power Sword ranking. So quick rundown. We've got 3 Power Swords as the absolute best of the best episode. We got 2 Power Swords as an above average episode. We got 1 Power Sword that's a good solid episode. We got the Cosmic Enforcer. That's neither good nor bad. It's right down the middle. Then we got the Havoc Staffs. 1 Havoc Staff is bad. 2 Havoc Staffs is worse. 3 Havoc Staffs. That episode should be banished to Despondos and never be seen again. Curtis, your Havoc Staff rating.
I would say that this episode definitely, there's some silly things in there, like why Skeletor hasn't used his power before. Why doesn't he use it ever, after this?
Sure.
Why are we just now hearing about these, just normal cartoon stuff that you would have. But aside from that, I can't imagine this episode being any better. So this is 3 Power Swords for me.
He's going the full 3.
It is one of those ones that, even years and years after watching this, if I'm to think about 2000 X series and I was to list 2 or 3 episodes that I really loved, this is right up there in one of those top 2 or 3. So
nice. So for me, I got to go 2 swords. It is definitely an above average episode. Seeing Tuvar, Badra for the first time, that whole concept, seeing them merged into 2 bad, getting all that. The Evil Warriors are a lot of fun. For me, really what just brings it down is the Beastman Manny Faces plot line. I don't like Beastman's powers working this way. And it still opens up the idea of then you've got a creature like Battle Cat, where it's like he's, especially in this series, where yes, he's smart, he's intelligent, but he can't even speak. So it's like, it opens up that whole can of worms for me of okay, why doesn't Beastman try this with Battle Cat then? And it's a weird road to go down. It's not necessarily bad, but it doesn't help the episode, in my opinion. And so that's just kind of what brings it down a little bit for me. But 2 swords,
I like the way they do Beastman's powers in this series, because there is mystery behind it. It's not a clear cut, hey, if they're a beast, he's going to be able to control it. I feel like depending on the whether it's the will of the user or whatever, they are able to fight off his mind control. We see that with the dragons. We see that here with Manny Faces. Who knows? Maybe he's tried it with Battle Cat and it just hasn't worked, because Battle Cat is so, he's fused with the power of Grayskull. He's attached to He-Man. Maybe it just is not something that works. So I like that there's some mystery to this, that it's not just a clear cut, hey, if they're a beast, he's able to control it. So
no, I agree with you on that. I just don't I don't personally feel like it should work on Manny Faces at all. If they had even done this plot line with Battle Cat in the Manny Faces role, I could accept that. But the fact that it is Manny Faces, the actor switching faces, it's just but yeah, overall, I love how Beastman's powers work. I agree with everything else about it. I don't like it even potentially working on Manny Faces.
I think what would have probably made this episode a little bit better as far as that regard is if we would have gotten more of a backstory on Manny Faces. How did he go from being the actor to this character that has these 3 faces? Are those 3 faces really individual personalities that are their own individual thing? Or are they, as he said earlier in the episode, a role that he plays? Because if it's a role and he's just playing a monster, then you're right. It shouldn't have had any control over it. But if that is a whole separate entity, a whole separate being, they're all merged in this one body. I think an origin episode for Manny Faces would have fit in nicely here right before this. So
yeah, or even forget the Orcas Island stuff and use that time to do
or like a flashback, or have him telling the story of how he got, whatever. It doesn't maybe have to be a full episode, but just a little snippet about how he works.
So when or even have Orca cut it short or whatever, have Manny Faces have that incident with Beastman. It shakes him and He-Man take off to a tar swamp, and then Manny's kind of like, and it would work because He-Man is new to them.
Mm-hmm.
Like, he doesn't know them. So Manny's like, He-Man, this is how I came to be.
Yeah, so him explaining it to He-Man would also be him explaining it to us as a viewer.
But it doesn't feel out of character like if he were to explain it to Man-at-Arms.
Right.
Man-at-Arms would be like, yeah, I was there, dude. Like,
yeah, I mean, most likely Man-at-Arms is the one that probably potentially made him the way that he is, or whether it's, maybe there was some sort of accident or something, and this was the way to keep him alive, or whatever the case may be. So
yep, exactly. I think, and if that had been there and explained it away, I'd be right there with you. So
yeah, I see what you're saying. Like I said, this isn't a flawless episode, but when I think of the series as a whole, this is actually, this might be the one that I really would want to go back to. Or if I was to say somebody had never seen 2000X and I was going to have them go watch one episode, this would probably be it.
Okay, nice.
So
I love it.
Yeah. All
right, guys. We thank you for tuning in. Make sure you click all the buttons down below. Like, share, subscribe. And until next time, go watch the true episode 16, Mystery of Anwat Gar.
Oh, come on.